scroll depicts the jewels of the Old Republic, planets of wonders kept hidden for their protection.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 3 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs, references, a couple of big questions that they answered about the lore and the history that they're invoking with the Old Republic on the show, too. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. The episode title was Very Interesting is an Astrogation Problem, which is a line of dialogue spoken by Kim in the episode The Bird Creature. I think it's her race's first appearance in Star Wars anything, like they created her race specifically for this. She's actually voiced by Alia Shawkat, who most of you probably remember from Arrested Development.
Anakin is very interesting. As an astrogation problem.
Can you get Jude in here for a meeting?
Oh, I'm just a reader.
It is funny how meta they're getting with the Easter eggs here, like Alia Shawkat from Arrested Development, in her mentioning Jude Law in that actual scene back in the day, now cameoing in a scene with Jude Law in the Star Wars universe. I don't think that's the reason why they cast her in Star Wars, because that Arrested Development joke, it just happened to work out that way. Like, that's how meta Arrested Development got. In context, she was pretending to be a studio executive trying to get a meeting with Jude Law because at the time they filmed this, like around that era in the 2000s, he was a very in-demand actor in movies. It seems like all the episode titles this season will also be taken just from lines of dialogue that they speak throughout the episodes. They kind of did something similar in the Marvel universe starring Agatha All Along, where each of the episode titles was based on one of the lines from the Ballad of the Witch's Road that they sang in the episodes. There are a couple of clues about what's going on with his character, his secret history, and what he's really doing during the episodes, but they explain the name that all the pirates know him as is Crimson Jack Silvo, and it's meant to be a direct comp, and they confirmed this to Long John Silver from Treasure Island. But he tells the kids that his name is Jod Nod Nawood, which might be his actual real birth name, so the Captain Silvo name might just be something that he created for himself when he became a pirate. Not really clear about that yet. There are a couple times in the episode where he hints at past PTSD trauma, like he'll get into his backstory throughout the rest of the episodes. But the actual opening scene starts back on their home planet of At-Aten, the city's central administration building. Notice that there's nobody walking around outside, no foot traffic. We only see the lone security droid roaming around through the streets. Kind of creepy, if you ask me. We go to Fern's house in the suburbs. There's also just a lone security droid patrolling the neighborhood. There are droids basically everywhere all over the planet. And all the kids' parents are meeting with Fern's mother to talk about what to do next. We see KB's parents for the first time too. Notice they're sitting in front of the same mural on the wall that looks just like a depiction of all the major races of people living on the planet together. Remember, there are not a ton of different alien races living on this planet. That's why Neil, when they were on the pirate space station, were like, look at all the crazy looking aliens. And he is literally an elephant man and thought that there were so many weird looking aliens when he has a giant trunk. All because he's only seen a couple other races his entire life. There are a couple bits of information they dumped during this too. KB's parents say that her visor gear has a life monitor inside. I think that was meant to be a reference to her parents having her low jacked, like a lot of parents in real life. Is that actual thing? Parents put trackers on their kids for security reasons, obviously. It's kind of like putting a tracking chip on your pets in case they run off, so you can use the internet to track them down super fast. Nowadays, parents do that with AirTags or like some other little device if the kids aren't old enough to actually have their own cell phone. Fern's mother talks about running away herself when she was a little girl being found by the safety droids. Remember, generationally, it seems like the planet has been secluded from the rest of the galaxy, hidden from the rest of the galaxy, since the time of the Old Republic. So like Fern's grandfather, for instance, grew up inside this same system and told her all those crazy stories about the people that were hidden beneath the planet, forced to work like slaves. Later in the episode, they do confirm that it is Old Republic. When they say Old Republic, we're talking thousands and thousands of years ago. The Old Republic and then the Republic of, say, like the prequels are completely different organizations during completely different parts of the timeline. The Old Republic fell after the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, the Great Sith War, and eventually turned into the High Republic. Then the High Republic only lasted for almost like 1,000 years, and then after that, the Republic was formed, and that only lasted for less than 100 years until the rise of the Empire, Order 66, and all that. The Old Republic existed for many tens of thousands of years, long, long before the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, the Great Sith War. It's ancient. A mysterious supervisor of the planet sends them a message that the kids left the barrier on the ship with no other real information of any use. So this is another big thing. Who is that mysterious supervisor? And is it really just a glorified ancient computer or droid running the planet? They actually got into this trope during a lot of Star Trek episodes, just across the different Star Trek series, where you find this ancient computer that's been running a civilization, keeping it trapped in this sort of self-contained loop for many eons, just because its programming went a little awry. If you're a big Doctor Who fan, they also did it during Silence in the Library, where like the library protects everyone, but it goes really dystopian when everyone is technically trapped inside the library. There are a couple clues in the episode that make it seem like that's kind of what's happened with At-Aten and why it's been hidden from the galaxy since the time of the Old Republic thousands of years ago. Like a real glorified security protocol that's been running awry for the last several thousand years. But there are a couple moments where the parents and then the kids separately begin to slowly question the whole system of it all. Like, wait a minute, what is the supervisor doing here? How does this all work? What are my parents' jobs? What is Chandler Bing's job? Systems analysts, they analyze data. What kind of data? I don't know. Wouldn't it be crazy if all the adults on the planet didn't actually have real jobs, and it was just this computer system that was giving them work to do to keep them busy, but they weren't actually doing anything? Just reading a whole bunch of data that didn't actually amount to anything. Fern's mother is a really good example of a person on the planet that doesn't question the system, though, but through this beginning part of the episode, you see Wim's father slowly start to question it, like, wait a minute, what's really going on here? She also says that she's going to request an audience with the supervisor immediately. She's probably not going to get that because, like I said, there might not actually be a real supervisor, or the supervisor might just be some ancient computer or ancient droid that's running this glorified security protocol, keeping the planet hidden from the rest of the galaxy to protect it. The other comp that people have been making is M. Night Shyamalan's Village movie, which Bryce Dallas Howard also starred in, which also shows up in a lot of Star Wars stuff because she's been directing so many episodes. Basically a self-contained village that's been hidden from the rest of the world to protect it. Back in the asteroid, we get a much better look at the asteroid that it sits in, the brig. It's giving lots of Pirates of the Caribbean vibes mixed with Jabba's cells under his palace, like all the different creatures in each one trying to get out. There are a lot of funny moments here with Jude Law's character. They're using this for a lot of comedy, like he's really playing it up for them, like putting on the Jedi act, like putting on a show for them, like a real huckster. He sneaks all the kids out, uses what looks like another force push to distract the guards. This is also meant to give you vibes of Obi-Wan Kenobi sneaking around the Death Star doing similar things to distract the stormtroopers. There are many, many moments in this episode that are direct lines of dialogue taken from the original trilogy, or just comps that are meant to be very similar to the original trilogy. I'm sure it'll be like this through all the episodes too. Whole lot of everybody going full meme, pointing at the screen like, oh, it's exactly like New Hope. It's exactly like Empire Strikes Back. A lot of this week was Jude Law doing Han Solo moments from Empire Strikes Back. When the kids immediately start to question him, thinking he's sus, if he has these force powers, if he was a Jedi, why didn't he use them to escape sooner, even though he tries to play it off like he needed to wait for a ship? What might be going on is that he was just waiting for an opportunity, or somebody tipped him off to the kids in At-Aten, so he might have been waiting for them when they showed up. But the way they explain it later is that Brutus, after they do escape, is pissed at him, puts a bounty on his head, and then probably jumps the ship with their crew to take off after him. So at least the way they play it later in the episode, they make it seem like he wasn't working with Brutus before this to actually just long con the kids, and this whole time he was just waiting in the brig to be put on trial. According to his former crewmate, who was also played by Alfred Molina from Spider-Man No Way Home and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. That's the other connection too, how they actually got him to do the episode, because John Watts directed Spider-Man No Way Home and he was just in that movie. Jon Favreau also said that in real life, when they were actually making Spider-Man No Way Home, they talked about the Skeleton Crew episodes. So you have to imagine while he was directing all the Dr. Octopus Sinister Six scenes, he's like, do you want to come have a Star Wars with us after this? What might be going on with his character, though, is that he does actually have Force abilities, but they're extremely weak. Like, he might have been a Jedi Padawan before Order 66, but never completed the training. But he is very much basically pulling a Long John Silver Treasure Island con on them. Fern is correctly suspicious of him, immediately claims there's no actual treasure on their planet of At-Aten. The funny thing about that, she might be correct about that. Like, there's no actual physical treasure, and the real treasure, like the real One Piece, is the friends we made all along the way. But the way that Kim talks about it later in the episode, it's meant to be one of the jewels of the Old Republic, and there's supposed to be something special going on with that planet. But it might just be the fact that it's so idyllic and suburban looking, like so protected from the craziness and the war of the rest of the galaxy. That might be what the actual treasure is that they just get a peaceful existence there without having to worry about the Empire or anything crazy like that. Here's the thing with that though, we did see them in a treasure room in the trailers, so even if there's no actual physical treasure on Aden, there will be some treasure somewhere in the episodes that they find. All the speechifying on the Force, trying to speak in Yoda-isms, is him just laying on the act real thick, like he's putting on a real big show to try and trick them, but most of the kids, except for like Wim and maybe Neil, are not convinced. Like, both KB and Fern are very, very suspect of him. Seems like SM-33 isn't really down with what he's saying either. They have the funny moment with that modified interrogation droid, making it seem like he doesn't actually have Force abilities. Like, how come you didn't detect the probe droid if you have Force abilities? Like I said, he might have some latent Force powers, and they might just be super, super weak. On the station, there are a couple of Jawas hanging out doing more space drugs. The reason why they're able to pass through the crowd without trouble probably is there might be something sus going on, like the pirates might be letting them escape. The way they play it later, though, Brutus is super pissed off at Silvo, so something might have happened. Like, there might be something going on beneath all this because it was too easy for them to escape. Like, Fern is correct in assuming that. The pirates probably did let them escape. That whole chase, the turrets, everything, might just been for show. When he says he's got an old friend that he's taking them to next, that's an Empire Strikes Back reference when Han Solo said that he was taking them to Lando in Cloud City.
I have an old friend in mind.
We go back a long way, Lando and me.
You trust him?
No.
In context, the person he's taking them to is the owl creature, Kim, played by Aaliyah Shawkat, who's going to help them navigate back to Aden, or at least get really close to it. Kim betraying him to the New Republic is also meant to be a comp to Lando betraying Han Solo in The Heroes to the Empire and Darth Vader. The reason why Jude Law wants to leave without SN-33 is one, because he doesn't care about the droid, but also he's going to double-cross them eventually and feels like it's going to be way harder to do that if the droid is around. There are a couple of jokes about the Jedi leaving people behind. This is also a callback to Han Solo telling Finn that's not how the Force works. Notice Fern starts to taunt him about being a Jedi, like, oh, come on, you got all these powers, you can do anything, right? Why don't you go save that droid with your crazy Jedi powers? Like, she definitely does not believe that he's a Jedi. Inside the storage area here, there's a whole bunch of droid Easter eggs. CZ-1 you probably recognize as one of the counterparts to the one inside the Jawa Sandcrawler in A New Hope, or it could be the actual same one because there are Jawas on this station and it's long after the events of A New Hope, so the Jawas have come out this far. But I think this is the first time we've actually heard it speak in any Star Wars production. I couldn't tell who the voice is, but you can let me know in the comments if you could detect who this cameo scene was. There are a couple speaking lines too from people that didn't sound familiar. Usually what that means is that it's just like a sly cameo scene from someone working on the production, or like they get someone famous to come do it, then don't put them in the credits, like Mark Hamill has done that before. Next one is an Imperial Protocol droid, an RA-7 model, the black version. We saw one during The Mandalorian, and we've seen one previously in a whole bunch of other Star Wars productions like the animated series too. Then there's a super deep cut Easter egg here too with the battle droid from the Clone Wars. Love the joke when he turns it on, like, did we win, as if it's been deactivated since the events of the Clone Wars while they were still going on, so it doesn't know what happened with the Clone Wars. SN-33 hanging out in the middle, then one of Silvo's former crew members named Benjar Pranik shows up, like I said, played by Alfred Molina. The way they play their scene, it sounds like he totally loved him as captain, but is going to sell him out like, wait before you go, let's call the guards. Kinda makes it sound like he wound up killing that person. While he was walking out the door too in the background, you actually see a gonk droid. Like, always gonk droids everywhere inside Star Wars. No matter where you go across the galaxy, there has to be a gonk droid somewhere in the background of a shot. You can let me know in the comments if you spotted any other droid Easter eggs or parts randomly in the background too, just because it feels like this whole scene here in the Bay is just Easter egg city. They used this scene for a bit of an info dump too on his backstory, saying that he'd been thrown in the brig after the mutiny and he was going to be put on trial, but let himself go, quote unquote. He confirms that he is just using the kids to get what he thinks the treasure of Aden is, like I said, probably doesn't exist, like Fern is probably correct in saying there is no actual treasure. The scenes of them in the trailers, in the temple, with the actual treasure, seems like a completely separate place, like a completely separate event. Early theory is that it'll pay off all of Wim's reading about ancient Jedi temples, like they will find an actual ancient Jedi temple. There's a bit of an Easter egg here too, when the kids are arguing about how Silvo could have faked the Force pull, because there have been a bunch of theories about that too, like maybe he isn't Force sensitive and he just faked it somehow with the key. Vern says he could have used a string to pull the key. That's actually how they filmed the scene in real life. Jude Law says they just slid the key to his hand on a string, then digitally removed the string from the shot. When he gets back to the Onyx Cinder and says, "Watch this," trying to impress the kids with the cool getaway and it doesn't work, is another comp for Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back when the hyperdrive wouldn't work. He winds up using the fuel line to cause a bunch of ships in the dock to crash into each other using the chaos to escape with the hyperdrive, and they show you what happens if you go into hyperspace while you're docked with something. It basically just causes the tether to snap back and break a whole bunch of the dock. Brutus then puts the bounty on his head, assembles his crew of pirates to go after him. I think this confirms that they weren't working together before this, like there's no special secret plot. He actually did escape before Brutus was going to put him on trial and kill him. There are a couple funny moments throughout the episode, like they mostly use Neil's character, for example, in episodes for comedy, but during this scene with Brutus, because he's a Shistavin, like he's literally a wolf man, he calls the children pups because the children of Brutus's race are like wolf pups. Another funny scene of Jude Law eating whatever kind of food has been sitting on that ship for who knows how long, and they just make a joke of how hungry everybody is. Like Jude Law has been stuck inside that cell, super hungry for a long time, and all the kids are crazy hungry. Even Neil's stomach growls audibly. Not sure exactly what they're eating there, it just looks like some kind of blue oatmeal concoction. What is the recipe on that, and how long has it been on that ship? How sick are they going to get from eating super old food? SN-33 not caring about him or taking his orders to clean the bowl is another callback to K2SO, who didn't care about being nice or helping everyone.
Doesn't sound so bad to me.
The whole idea is that as a pirate droid, SN-33 is really only programmed to obey the captain's orders, who is currently Fern, so he probably won't listen to anyone else, and it seems like he really doesn't like Jude Law's character, who then expects the ship take some of the clothes from the dead pirates that previously owned the ship, including the jacket, the knife that we used to kill whoever this is. Maybe this was the former captain? There are a couple SN-33 jokes here too, when he says he won't repeat himself, then proceeds to repeat himself a couple times. But I think what they're trying to show you is that he plans to eventually betray the kids, take the ship for himself when they find At-Aden, and he's going to have to deal with the droid when he does that. So he's going to have to find some way to disable the droid before he does that. All the kids start wondering if the treasure on At-Aden has something to do with the mysterious Great Work. They don't know what the Great Work is. The reality might be that it's just the planet's peaceful existence protected from the rise of the Empire, like I said. Like, the Great Treasure might be a metaphor in that its society is protected and peaceful. There's all the jokes about them questioning what their parents actually do. Like I said, that could also be another big twist in that they don't actually have real jobs. Like, the parents think that they're doing work, but they're not actually really doing anything. They all sleep. There's another Neil joke where like his trunk makes that wheezing sound because he literally has an elephant's trunk. When KB tells Jude Law the odds of him actually being a Jedi and he replies not everything can be calculated, that's another Han Solo comp to never telling him the odds. When he makes it seem like he turns the lights off with the Force right after that, he probably just used a remote switch to do that, like he probably found a remote control, because later you see the kids playing with the remote control and the dock controls. They really want you to wonder if he actually has any Jedi abilities or any Force abilities. They arrive at Kim's moon base, this owl creature. The music that they're playing here also sounds a little like Doctor Who, like they're using a theremin for this. When the kids are playing with the dock controller, like that giant arm, they're probably going to use that for a big twist later in the series too, like Chekhov's arm controller, kind of like Chekhov's self-destruct button that they introduced in the first couple of episodes. Somebody, maybe Wim, because he likes to press buttons, is going to press that button at some point. Anytime you tell a little kid not to play with something, like Jude Law tells them, don't play with that arm, of course they're going to keep playing with that arm. When you see him walking across the moon's surface, the silhouettes here against the planet looks a little bit like E.T. with them going across the moon, just because a lot of the series borrows liberally from Steven Spielberg's E.T. movie. He tries to explain metaphors to them, particularly about stabbing someone in the back, probably also to foreshadow him stabbing them in the back at some point. Then Kim calls the New Republic on him to rescue the children, thinking that she's going to help them. She's very, very correct in her guess of what's going on here. She's got a bunch of the same security droids outside her door just like Jabba's palace, and she calls him Crimson Jack, so I'm assuming the full name is Crimson Jack Silvo, and it's his pirate name. That might just be the fake name that he created for himself when he became a pirate. And the inside of her Ori looks really cool. I think this is also meant to be a comp for the Dark Crystal's Ori. She's got all kinds of books, artifacts, maps from all over the galaxy, and a lot of rare paper books that look ancient. And that's a big thing in Star Wars too. Up until The Last Jedi, there was no real paper in any of the Star Wars movies. All until the ancient Jedi texts. Then after that, you started to see paper show up in the Star Wars movies and the TV shows all over the place. So like it's all over the place now. But at least up until Last Jedi, paper did not really exist inside the Star Wars universe. Kim does a big lore dump for the kids to explain what happened to their planet, confirming a lot of theories. It was cloaked at some point from the rest of the galaxy on purpose to protect it. She references it as one of the jewels of the Old Republic, so we are talking about actual Old Republic era, and there are 9 planets on this chart here, but the way she explains it is that the other 8 were destroyed over time. Only the At-Aden planet remains. So it sounds like the planet has been hidden under this cloak for thousands of years. Not hundreds of years, but thousands of years. Which also explains how the kids know nothing of the rise of the Empire, the Galactic Civil War, Order 66. I love Jude Law's reaction to that too, like, whew, Alderaan? You don't know what happened to Alderaan? Yeah, it definitely got destroyed by a giant Death Star, giant moving planet just blowing stuff up all over the place. But it basically explains why all the kids are such sweet summer children about everything. Kim sees one of Fern's patches, identifying it as Palmerish numerals, saying she's never seen them in a Proto-Republic artifact, meaning before the actual Republic of the prequels existed. Remember, the Old Republic and the Galactic Republic are 2 completely different organizations, separated by thousands and thousands of years. I couldn't find any reference to Palmer as a language or a culture from previous Star Wars lore, so it sounds like they created that specifically for the series, making it a bit of a retcon into the series, like this history from the Old Republic that they're working into the backstory of Star Wars itself. What they also might be doing with all this Old Republic stuff that they're putting into the series is tying it to what's happening with the Dawn of the Jedi movie, too. James Mangold is supposed to be working on that Dawn of the Jedi movie about the beginning of the Jedi Order in the next couple of years. It's supposed to come out in like the next 3 years. We'll see if that winds up happening though, because every time they announce a new Star Wars movie is coming out, until you actually see them rolling camera, it usually winds up getting delayed. The Mandalorian and Grogu movie is an exception to that because they've already finished most of the filming on that. But you also notice that Fern's patch also has the 9 symbols around the edge of it for the 9 different planets, the 9 different jewels of the Old Republic. She stalls for time so the New Republic X-Wings can show up, and remember, this is around the events of Ahsoka Season 1 and The Mandalorian Season 3, like right after Mando Season 3. He escapes with the coordinates, the kids follow him because they feel like they have to, but she tells KB to use logic in her head to find out what's really going on, the truth behind Silvo's lies, and says that they can call her anytime for help, which means that they probably will call her and she'll cameo again before the end of the series. He used a little talk no jutsu on them to get them back on the ship, agreeing to an actual partnership, admitting to not being a Jedi, so that's actually a pretty big deal. Like he says, yeah, I didn't really say I was a Jedi, you just assumed I was a Jedi, but he might still have some low latent Force abilities, like he might be Force sensitive. My assumption without more backstory is that he might have been a Jedi Padawan before Order 66, but never completed the training, and then just escaped before Order 66 happened, or survived it somehow, and then became a pirate to survive. One of the other funnier parts of their deal here that he makes really quickly with them is that technically he works for them now, not the other way around, so he has to do what they say. We'll see if that sticks though. When he tells them that a droid will always let you down every time, that's also probably them queuing up some more backstory from some PTSD event or some tragic event. Maybe at some point when he was a little kid, like during Order 66, a droid betrayed him, or maybe it had something to do with Brutus's mutiny or the way that his parents died. Either way, you can just hear a tone of trauma under his voice, like, I will explain the rest of this in a future episode because there's just a whole lot going on here.
Crimson Jack, land this ship immediately.
The voice on the comms sounded a little bit like Jon Favreau's voice. There are 2 X-Wing pilots, but we only see one of them, so one of them could have been just Jon Favreau doing voiceover. Even though he's sort of the architect of all the Mandalorian stuff that's happening during this part of the timeline, the spin-offs with Dave Filoni, he did star in the early Mandalorian seasons as the Pax Vizsla heavy infantryman, which was meant to be an Easter egg callback for his Clone Wars character, Paz Vizsla, from years ago in The Death Watch. There's a bunch of funny scenes about him teaching the kids how to fly the plane in the dogfight just to stall for time so that they can get the hyperdrive working. To their credit, the kids actually managed to do a pretty decent job, but this is meant to be a comp to the Millennium Falcon escaping at the beginning of A New Hope, too, with them operating the gun turrets. Love the look on Wim and Fern's faces, like this is the most fun that they've ever had their entire life, like this is their dream come true, like they're playing a video game almost. Then Kim makes it seem like she's about to tell the New Republic pilots about At-Aden, but they wouldn't believe her, so they want you to think that she's not going to tell them, and the planet will just still stay secret. The X-Wing pilot here that we see is Andy Powers. He hasn't appeared in Star Wars before, but he did appear in Spider-Man Homecoming in a lesser role, which is a John Watts production. Like, that's the connection because John Watts created the series. It's also a big Jon Favreau connection, too, because Jon Favreau, who runs the Mandalorian part of the timeline with Dave Filoni, is also Happy Hogan in all those Spider-Man movies. So there's a whole lot of Marvel crossover energy happening here just in general. Like, we also have Dr. Octopus showing up in the episode. One of the other credits in the Easter eggs too, Sam Witwer shows up under additional voices again. He does this in a lot of episodes, like he does additional voices for pretty much all the Star Wars series, but I think on Skeleton Crew, he might be voicing the security droids on At-Aden. It sounds a little bit like a voice he would do. There's a bunch of Easter eggs and a bunch of new information they revealed during the episode. If there's anything you spotted that I didn't talk about in the video, write them below in the comments, and post all your theories about what's really going on with Jude Law's character. Really cool to see them tie this back to the Old Republic. There haven't been a ton of Old Republic Easter eggs, but every once in a while you'll see one in a Star Wars series. There are a couple Old Republic connections during Ahsoka recently too. All we need now is for them to do an actual Old Republic series of movies and TV shows. My episode 4 video will post next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. And speaking of giant space fantasy, Henry Cavill just did a big announcement on his new Warhammer TV series. I'll do a video for that in the next couple days too. Everybody click here for all my Skeleton Crew videos, and click here for that Henry Cavill Warhammer video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.